So loop is a sequence of instructions that are repeated. So with the help of a loop, we can execute um, set of instructions or a single instruction multiple times, as many times as we want, without writing that many number of lines of instruction. So there are two types of loop, which is a definite loop. The loop repeats exactly n number of times, and in indefinite loops, it repeats the piece of code indefinitely, means like until a certain condition satisfied. So in the category of definite loops, we have for loops. So it's a common programming task to access all the elements in a container. So example, printing items in a list. So for loop statement loops over each element in a container one at a time, assigning a variable with the next element that can be used in a loop body. Okay, so the container in the for loop statement is typically a list, or it could be a tuple or a string. So each iteration of the loop assigns the name given in the for loop statement with the next element in the container. So what do I mean by that? Is let's see the syntax first. So the syntax is the for loop here is first of all we need to specify the container, and we may have like 5 elements or 10 elements on the container. So in the during the every iteration of this loop, so it will first iterate the piece of code that is written here, the total number of times, which is equivalent to the total number of elements in the container. And in every iteration, it reads the first element. So for it reads an element and assign it to the variable here. Okay, so it repeatedly runs this piece of code, whatever is written inside the intended block underneath for loop, and whatever is intended outside is considered the code which is not a part of the for loop. So it will execute once the for loop is completed. Okay, so let's take an example here. So for name is the name of the variable that we are giving here. It could be anything. You can give any name to this variable here. So this is the in operator. Okay, again, we have already discussed the in operator. So Bill, Nicole, John. So we have a list here, list container containing 3 elements. So what will happen here is in every iteration, when the for loop runs for the first time. Okay, so what happen is Bill, the first element, which is actually the 0th index element, will be assigned to this variable name. Okay, so once this value is assigned to variable name, we can use this value. We are printing it here right now, but we can choose to do anything, whatever you want to do. So here what will happen is, so first of all, when this loop runs, so in the first iteration, the bill will be assigned to name, and then we are printing hi name, which currently contains, and during the first iteration, bill. In the second iteration, it will be containing the value name variable will be containing the value Nicole, and the third iteration, it will be containing the name value variable will be containing the value John. Okay, and a for loop can iterate over strings as well. So let me explain it to you on a whiteboard. What do I mean by explaining it in words? Okay. Um, so when we write for, let's say for, or maybe choose this for, or let me do this for, and I have some variable, let's say age, and then I write in, sorry, and then I have, let's say age is defined up here. Sorry, age is defined, or ages is defined here, 12, 18, 20, 22, and let's say 45. So these are some ages that are defined in the list ages. Okay, so what we are having here is we are running, or maybe instead of using variable name age, I should use the value element in ages. So this is the format. So what will happen is so first of all, this loop automatically detects based on the size of ages, size of this list. So what is the size of this list? Size means like number of elements in the list. The size of the list is 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so we have 5 elements. So this loop is going to run 5 times. And what is it going to execute 5 times? Whatever we write here, it is going to execute that 5 times. Okay, so suppose we have a statement print and only element. So what does element contains? So when it is executing first time, when it is executing or let's say 0th time, the 0th iteration, let's say iteration, during the 0th iteration, value of element would be 12. So it will read first value in ages dictionary and it will assign this value to this variable element. And what we are doing now here is printing that value element. Next iteration, the value of element would be 18, and the second iteration, the value of will be 20, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let me just give you a quick demo.